What's going on, Not Move Nation? Welcome to the Not Move podcast. Today is February 24th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you to the supporters, subscribers, and followers. We really do appreciate all of you. Also, thank you to the sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, we have a lot of NBA on today. Let's go over these injuries. Alex Soar for the Washington Wizards is out due to a hamstring issue. By the way, I'm getting these injury updates from rotowire.com, ROTO wire.com. I've been using this source for several years now. I think they do a great job at these injury updates. So, yeah, Alex Soar for Washington out with a hamstring issue. Neesmith for Indiana out with an ankle issue. Cooper Flag for Dallas out with a foot issue. Pirtle for Toronto out with a back issue. Porzingis for Golden State out with an illness. Missy for New Orleans Pelicans out with a calf issue. Trey Murphy for New Orleans Pelicans out with a shoulder issue. Anthony Simons for Chicago out with a wrist issue. Avdia for Portland out with a back issue. Shaden Sharp for Portland out with a calf issue. Siakam for Indiana is doubtful with a left wrist sprain. Embiid for Philly questionable with a knee/shin issue. Nimhard questionable with a back issue. TJ McConnell for Indiana questionable with a hamstring issue. Vukcevic for Washington questionable with a hand issue. Kuminga questionable with a knee issue for Atlanta. Gafford for Dallas, questionable with an ankle issue. Chet Holmgren for Oklahoma City, questionable with back spasms. Caruso for Oklahoma City, questionable with an ankle issue. DeAnthony Melton for Golden State, questionable with a knee issue. Draymond Green for Golden State, questionable with a back issue. Al Horford for Golden State, questionable with a toe issue. Jalen Smith for Chicago, questionable with a calf issue. Davion Mitchell for Miami, questionable with an illness. Jaylen Brown for Boston, questionable with a knee issue. Grayson Allen for Phoenix, questionable with an ankle issue. And Naz Reid for Minnesota, questionable with a shoulder issue. Obviously, there's still a lot of information that could come out between now and game time. So I would definitely keep up with your favorite source, or this source is my favorite, rotowire.com, for those injury updates. And, we have a lot of games on today. I did the best I could to get all of the main injuries, main injury updates, but there's probably still some that I didn't list. Like, see Kobe White here. Kobe White for Charlotte is probable to play tonight. I think this would be his first game with the Hornets. Kalkbrenner's probable for the Hornets. I believe SGA is still going to be out for Oklahoma City. Dylan Brooks, Devin Booker, I believe they'll still be out. Nikola Jovic for Miami is also doubtful to play with a back issue. Jackson Hayes doubtful for the Lakers with an ankle issue tonight as well. Jalen Suggs questionable. If I didn't list him, I don't believe I did. Jalen Suggs is questionable to play for Orlando. So, yeah, a lot of injury updates. So, is there a game in particular that you guys want to talk about? If not, I'll just find one that looks appealing here. What game looks like it's going to be the game of the night? Probably that Knicks and Cavs game. Let's just start from the top today. Philadelphia at Washington. Philadelphia, 1-game win streak. Indiana, 3-game losing streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Philadelphia has won 2 regular season games in a row against Indiana. These teams have played against each other twice this season, and Philadelphia won both of those matchups. The first game was on December 12th at Philly, and Philly won by 10 points, 115-105. The The most recent meeting was on January 19th at Philadelphia, and Philly won 113 to 104. Philadelphia, they're 6-4 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Indiana's 1-4 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. When I looked at this line last night, Philadelphia was favored by 6.5. This morning, I saw that they're favored by 9.5. Over under last night was 234.5. This morning dropped a point, 233.5. I looked at these against the spread trends. I'm not going to go through every record for time's sake today, but I look at those three major trends, and Philadelphia wins all three of those trends. To summarize, Philadelphia has the seventh best against the spread record. They're 31-26, and Indiana's 28-30. I do just want to mention too, Philadelphia is 9-3 against the spread as a road favorite, but yeah, Indiana's 14-9 against the spread as a home underdog. But yeah, anyways, I give Philadelphia the advantages in all those three different categories. What I look at with all of these games is the against the spread trend, and then who's better. Like in this case, Philadelphia is the road favorite, Indiana's the home underdog. So I'll look at their against the spread record for that as a road favorite or a home underdog, and that's for all of the games. And then against the spread records after a win or after a loss. So yeah, I give Philadelphia all those advantages. If you just want to double check for your own sake, I get those against the spread trend records from teamrankings.com. All right, so really, Indiana, they rank 21st in team defensive efficiency. Where Indiana is really vulnerable is allowing those points in the paint per game. They rank second worst in that category. So if you guys like Maxey and or Embiid points today, I do give them a points in the paint advantage, considering Maxey ranks first in the NBA, 17th best in the first on the team, 17th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game, and then it's Embiid who ranks 37th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. Indiana is actually pretty good at limiting those fast break points per game. They rank 7th best in that. They are the best team in the NBA at limiting those 3-point field goals made per game. And then they rank 9th best in assists allowed per game. They rank second worst in rebounds allowed per game. So if you like any rebound props for Philadelphia today, or if you're in another live stream and you hear somebody that likes a rebound prop for Philadelphia, I could possibly see that happening, considering Indiana ranks second worst in that category. Usually I list, the leaders in assists per game, rebounds per game, free throw attempts per game. I just didn't have time to do that today. I don't think I'll have time to cover it, even if I did have it wrote down. Okay. And Indiana does allow the third most free throw attempts per game to opposing teams. So if you like somebody for Philadelphia, going over their point total today, and they're pretty decent, they're pretty decent at getting to the free throw line, do give them, a better chance to shoot some more free throws today than maybe some other days. And then Philadelphia, they're about average in team defensive efficiency. They rank 15th in that category. They're not really vulnerable to points in the paint or three-pointers. They're a little bit above average in both of those categories. But where Philadelphia lacks is defending against fast break points per game. They rank 27th in that category. Luckily for them, Indiana, their fast break points per game scorer, their leader, is doubtful to play today, Pascal Siakam. But if you like somebody for Indiana today and they're decent at scoring fast break points, I'd maybe look to see who that next leader is for Indiana, or the next couple of leaders in fast break points per game, considering that's where Philadelphia is really vulnerable. Philadelphia also, they rank 24th in assists allowed per game, 23rd in rebounds allowed per game. So they're below average at limiting both of those categories. So yeah, if you like Indiana players today, or you hear somebody on another live stream mention an Indiana player, For assists or rebounds, I could see that happening. I think they probably have a better chance of doing that today than some other days, considering Philadelphia is below average at defending against both of those categories. And then Philadelphia does rank 23rd in opponent free throw attempts per game. So if you like somebody for Indiana going over those points today, I could see them getting a couple more free throw opportunities today than maybe some other days. Let's say Siakam did play. I mean, it's rare that I see that a player's doubtful and they end up playing. But if he does play, he has had a triple double in 2 of his last 25 games against Philadelphia and a double double in 8 of his last 25 games against Philly, which includes those 2 triple doubles. And then we have the Washington Wizards at Atlanta Hawks. Washington's on a 1-game losing streak. Atlanta's on a 1-game winning streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. I don't believe anybody that played today played yesterday. Anyways, they've won 1 regular season game in a row against Washington. They have played against each other twice this season, and each team has won a game against each other. The first meeting was on November 25th at Washington, and Washington won 132 to 113. That game was also on a Tuesday, like today's. The most recent meeting was on December 6th at Washington, and Atlanta won 131 to 116. Washington, they're 3-4 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Atlanta's 2-4 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. CJ McCollum is the projected starting point guard for Atlanta today, and he did score his career high in points against Washington on January 3rd of 2025. He scored 50 total points in that game. So if you do like CJ McCollum going over his point total today, you have that historical advantage there. Now, that was back when he played with the Pelicans, and that game was at New Orleans Pelicans. And then Koulibaly for Washington scored his career high in points, which was 27 points against Atlanta back in 2024, October 30th, 2024. So if you like him to go over his points today, you do have that historical advantage as well. That game was at Washington, okay? This game's at Atlanta today. Anyways, yesterday I looked at this line. Atlanta was favored by 12.5. I checked this morning. They were favored by 13.5. I looked at those 3 different against the spread trends. Washington wins 2 out of 3 of those trends. And that's kind of surprising considering that Washington does have the 3rd worst against the spread record in the NBA. They're 24-32 against the spread. Atlanta's 28-31 against the spread. But, the big difference here, the one that sticks out to me the most out of all of these trends is that Atlanta's 3-10 against the spread as a home favorite. Both of these teams are below average in team defensive efficiency. Washington ranks 2nd worst in the NBA in team defensive efficiency, so they're pretty bad at defense. They allow the 7th most points in the paint per game to opposing teams. So I could see guys like Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels taking advantage of that today, considering that Jalen Johnson ranks 1st on Atlanta in points in the paint per game, 8th best in the NBA in that category. And then Dyson Daniels ranks 43rd. Also, Washington allows the 5th most fast break points per game to opposing teams. Jalen Johnson is the leader once again for Atlanta in fast break points per game. He ranks 5th in that category. Alexander Walker ranks 7th. Riza Shea ranks 44th. And then Washington allows the 6th most 3-point field goals made per game to opposing teams. Alexander Walker is the leader for Atlanta today in 3-point field goals made per game and ranks 11th best in the NBA. And then it's CJ McCollum, who ranks 28th. Washington allows the 2nd most assists per game to opposing teams. They allow the most rebounds per game to opposing teams. The 4th most free throw attempts per game to opposing teams. So basically, shop is open today for any of your Atlanta Hawk players. My only concern on this it would be that Atlanta runs away with this game. I'm not saying that I like that or not. I don't have enough information really to be looking at who I think is going to win or lose at this time of day. But that would be a concern of mine. The spread is pretty big. Atlanta running away with this doesn't seem too far fetched, which could mean that some of these starters don't see the court in the fourth quarter, maybe the late third quarter. Anyways, Atlanta, they rank 18th in team defensive the defensive efficiency. So so they're below average of that category, and they rank 23rd in points in the paint allowed per game. So, Anthony Davis and Alex Soar are the leaders for Washington in points in the paint per game. But from my understanding, they're unavailable tonight. So the next man up for Washington, who leads this team in points in the paint per game, is going to be Alondes Williams. But, he ranks 126th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. But I could see him possibly stepping in and filling in that void. Atlanta, they rank 25th in fast break points allowed per game. So sixth worst? Cam Whitmore is the leader for Washington in fast break points per game. He ranks 13th, followed by Alondes Williams, who ranks 24th, and then Trae Young, who I believe is still out, who ranks 35th. Atlanta slightly below average in 3-point field goals allowed per game to opposing teams. They rank 16th in that category. Keyshawn George is the leader for Washington in 3-point field goals made per game. He ranks 57th best in the NBA, followed by Bub Carrington, who ranks 60th, Trey Johnson, who ranks 63rd. Atlanta is also, vulnerable to the assists allowed per game, rebounds allowed per game. They rank 20th in assists allowed per game, so below average. They're below average at limiting those rebounds per game to opposing teams. So, I think this could be a pretty good matchup for player props as long as this game stays relatively competitive. And even if it doesn't, I could still see the starters, doing their thing, and then maybe some bench players. If I were interested in some of these bench props today, I would maybe look at bench points allowed per game by both of these teams. If you think it's going to be a blowout and you like some bench players. Jalen Johnson has only had a triple-double in 1 out of 13 career games against Washington. By the way, I do think history means a little bit less whenever, players are averaging a career high in points per 40 minutes, rebounds per 40 minutes, assists per 40 minutes, which you can find that information on ESPN.com by just looking up a player, Jalen Johnson stats. You can type that into your search engine. It usually takes you to ESPN.com, one of the first things you can click on. And then you'll want to go to advanced tabs, and then you'll be able to see, is he averaging more points per 40 minutes this season, rebounds per 40, assists per 40. I mean, I think it's nice when you have both good history against a team and a player, and, your points per 40 is at an all-time high. But I do think that history means less if you're doing more than you've ever done this season, So, but yeah, Jalen Johnson, the reason why I bring that up is because I believe Jalen Johnson is one of those guys. We can look it up real quick. Jalen Johnson stats. One of the first things that pops up is ESPN.com, right? So I'll click on that, go to the advanced stats tab. Yeah, his points per 40, rebounds per 40, assists per 40, all categories are at all time. All three of those categories are at all-time highs for him. So, I could see him doing some damage today, even though he's only had one triple-double in 13 career games against Washington. And then Dyson Daniels has not had a triple-double in 7 career games against Washington, nor has he had a double-double in any of those games. All right, and then we have Dallas at Brooklyn. Dallas is on a 1-game win streak. Brooklyn, 4-game losing streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Dallas has won 2 regular season games in a row against Brooklyn. Dallas leads the season series 2-0. I'm not going to go over necessarily all the meetings. I'm going to try to cover this as quickly as possible. I probably have about 20 minutes or so left that I could be on here. But Dallas is 2-2 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Brooklyn's 1-4 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Brooklyn has lost 7 consecutive games that they've played against any team on this exact date, February 24th. I noticed that Michael Porter Jr., the projected starting small forward for the Brooklyn Nets, has a 9-2 career record against Caleb Martin for Dallas. Michael Porter Jr. also has a 9-3 career record against Klay Thompson. I didn't get a chance to look at this line last night, but this morning I checked about an hour ago. Dallas was favored by 1.5, over under 224.5. And I looked at 3 different against the spread trends. Brooklyn has advantages in all 3 of those categories. Dallas does have the 6th worst against the spread record in the NBA. They're they're 25-31 against the spread. Brooklyn's 26-29-1 against the spread. So not a big difference there. Dallas is 2-5 against the spread as a road favorite, which ranks 4th worst in the NBA. Brooklyn is 11-12 against the spread as a home underdog. Points in the paint allowed per game. Both of these teams. Let's talk about Brooklyn's defense first. They rank 25th in team defensive efficiency, so just a handful of teams are worse at that category than Brooklyn. Brooklyn, they allowed the 5th most points in the paint per game to opposing teams. With Cooper Flag being out, the next man up is going to be Marshall for Dallas, and points in the paint per game. He ranks 53rd and best in the NBA, and then PJ Washington ranks 67th. Brooklyn also allows the most fast break points per game to opposing teams, but with Flag being out, Marshall, once again, he's the leader on Dallas in fast break points per game. He ranks 31st best in the NBA in that category. Brooklyn's pretty good at limiting those 3-point field goals made per game. They rank 6th best in that category, a little below average at limiting assists per game to opposing teams. They rank 19th. So if you like assist props today for Dallas, Dallas has probably had some tougher matchups this season getting those. Brooklyn ranks 13th in rebounds allowed per game, so just slightly above average. So if you like anybody for Dallas getting rebounds today, not going up against a super tough defending rebounding team, but they've probably had some better chances. Let's see. Brooklyn also ranks 13th in opponent free throws allowed per game, so slightly above average. And then Dallas, they rank 14th in team defensive efficiency, so right about average in that category. And Dallas allows the most points in the paint per game to opposing teams. So I could, see Nick Claxton taking advantage of that, considering he's the leader for Brooklyn and ranks 42nd best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. And then Michael Porter Jr., who ranks 62nd in that category. Dallas is slightly below average at limiting those fast break points per game. They rank 18th in that category. MPJ, Michael Porter Jr., leads the Brooklyn Nets. And, he ranks 84th best in the NBA in fast break points per game, which, really doesn't, I don't think he's got a huge advantage here, but I did just want to mention that. I think all these advantages could add up to something big. We talked about Michael Porter Jr. points in the paint, fast break points, how he's good at both of those. 3 points, though, that's really his bread and butter, and Dallas is good at defending against those 3-point field goals made per game. They rank 5th best in that category. But I would maybe look to see, if you were interested in Michael Porter Jr. points today, to see, what his history is like against Marshall or Christie, maybe even Tyus Jones. I know these guys haven't necessarily played for Dallas for a long time. I think Marshall played for the Pelicans not too long ago. Okay, so Dallas, they rank 23rd in assists allowed per game, 28th in rebounds allowed per game. So they're below average at limiting both of those categories against opposing teams. So if you like anybody today for Brooklyn on those assists and or rebounds, you got, that working with you. Obviously, a lot more other information to look at. But, Dallas, they rank ninth best in opponent free throw attempts per game. Okay. Michael Porter Jr. has not had a double-double in 17 career games against Dallas. Daniel Gafford has had a double-double in 2 out of 12 career games against Brooklyn. And P.J. Washington, he's had a double-double in 3 out of 18 career games against Brooklyn. And then we have the Oklahoma City Thunder at Toronto Raptors. Both of these teams are on 2-game win streaks. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Toronto, they've won 1 regular season game in a row against Oklahoma City, but Oklahoma City's won the last 4 out of 5 regular season meetings against Toronto. These teams have played against each other only one time this season, and Toronto won that game on January 25th at Oklahoma City. This game is at Toronto today, but Toronto showed that they could go into OKC's crib and still get a dub. Toronto won that game 103 to 101, so it was close. Oklahoma City's 8-1 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Toronto's 5-1 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Oklahoma City has also lost 3 consecutive games that they've played against any team on this exact date, February 24th. I did notice Chet Holmgren has a 5-1 career record against Brandon Ingram. Chet Holmgren being with Oklahoma City, Ingram being with Toronto. But, I mentioned at the start of the show that Chet Holmgren is questionable to play in this one. Looked at those 3 different against the spread trends, and I give Toronto advantages in all 3 of those trends. I'm not even going to do that. Oklahoma City has the worst record against the spread record as a road underdog. They're 0-1. But yeah, I did look at those 3 different against the spread factors, and Toronto wins all of those trends. Okay. Both of these teams are really good defensively in regards to team defensive efficiency. Oklahoma City ranks 1st. Toronto ranks 6th. So, really the biggest vulnerability I see with Toronto in regards to where they rank in all the major categories that I normally talk about is going to be opponent free throw attempts per game. I didn't have time to look at those leaders this morning, but if you are interested in viewing that, NBA.com is where I get that free throw. Or no, it's ESPN.com for that one. ESPN.com for free throw attempts leaders. So if anybody for Oklahoma City is decent at getting to the free throw line that you like today, I could see them possibly getting a couple more opportunities at the free throw line. I know SGA, people call him the free throw merchant. He's out from my understanding. So maybe look for that next man up who's decent at getting to the free throw line for Oklahoma City. So after that, Toronto, they're still above average at this category, but it is their next biggest vulnerability. It's going to be rebounds allowed per game to opposing teams, but they still rank 12th best in that category. They rank 8th best in points in the paint allowed per game, 3rd best in fast break points allowed per game, 10th best in 3-point field goals allowed per game. So, and 2nd in assists allowed per game. So very talented defense here for Toronto. I like Toronto, man. Last year, they were just dealing with a bunch of injuries. Looks like they've pretty much got their health back this year, and the record shows. 34-23 is their record this season. So, yeah, I think Toronto's a pretty solid team. But let's talk about Oklahoma. Oklahoma City's defense. They do rank 1st in team defensive efficiency, but where they're vulnerable is that 3-point defense. They rank 3rd worst in 3-point field goals allowed per game to opposing teams. So I could see Quickly and possibly Brandon Ingram taking advantage of that today, considering Quickly is the leader for Toronto in 3-point field goals made per game and ranks 25th best in the NBA in that category. And then Brandon Ingram ranks 78th. Usually I only look at the top 50, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit more to work with today. But other than that, I mean, Oklahoma City, they allow the fewest points in the paint per game, the fewest fast break points per game, the sixth fewest assists per game. They are vulnerable at those rebounds allowed per game. So if you like anybody for Toronto getting some rebounds, um, Oklahoma City does allow the sixth most rebounds per game to opposing teams. And hey, Scotty Barnes, he missed last game, but he's back. I didn't look at Scotty Barnes' triple-double stats against Oklahoma City. Let me see if it's easily. Here we go. He's never had a triple-double against them. He's had a double-double in 2 out of 8 career games against Oklahoma City. According to statmuse.com, that's where I usually get that information from, the triple-doubles and double-doubles. I don't know if I mentioned that Oklahoma City ranks 10th in opponent free throw attempts allowed per game. So they are a little bit above average at limiting those free throw attempts to opposing teams. But Brandon Ingram has not had a triple-double in 22 career games against Oklahoma City. And he's only had a double-double in 2 out of 22 career games against OKC. Then we have the Knicks at Cleveland. This is probably the game of the day. Knicks 2-game win streak. Cleveland 1-game losing streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. The Knicks have won 2 regular season games in a row against Cleveland. These teams played against each other twice this season, and the Knicks lead the season series 2-0. So the Knicks won both of the matchups they've played in this season. The Knicks won by 8 points in one of those games, 119 to 111, and then they won by 2 points, 126 to 124. Both of those games were in New York, though. This one today is in Cleveland. The Knicks are 5-4 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Cleveland 2-0 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. James Harden, the projected starting point guard for Cleveland today, has a 15-3 career record against Josh Hart, 22-8 career record against Karl Anthony Towns, 14-6 against Mikal Bridges, 13-5 against Anunoby. Donovan Mitchell has a 16-6 career record against Mikal Bridges. So a lot of historical head-to-head advantages today for some of these Cleveland Cavaliers against the opposing players for the Knicks. But last night we saw there were 2 big ones. Who was it? Şengün. He had a good career record against whoever he played last night. And what game was that? I can look it up real quick. Against Utah, it was against Mark. Şengün had a great career. And Houston ended up blowing them out of the water. And then, didn't they? And then there was one that failed yesterday. It was the Spurs and Pistons game. It was how Tobias Harris had a really good record against De'Aaron Fox. The Spurs ended up coming away with that win, though. And personally, whenever I see a big trend like that, I don't necessarily just hop on whatever side that trends, is in favor of. I try to find some other stuff that can, back me up, and but I do like to keep track of that stuff. How many times does a player with a big record advantage against another player? How many times do we see that player winning or losing, or against the spread? How many times do we see teams that have against the spread trends in their favor? How many times do we actually see those teams winning or covering versus losing? So okay, so we're at Knicks and Cleveland here. When I checked this line last night, Cleveland favored by 3.5. Check this morning, Cleveland favored by 4.5. I looked at those three different against the spread trends, and the Knicks win all three of those trends. To summarize, Cleveland has the second worst against the spread record in the NBA. They're 24-34. The Knicks are 31-28 against the spread this season. So, yeah, and then I looked at those other two trends that I normally look at, Knicks advantages in both of those areas. Um, Cleveland, they rank 12th in team defensive efficiency, so they're above average in that category. The Knicks rank 11th, so they're above average in their category as well. But the big vulnerabilities I see with Cleveland are going to be, first, it's going to be the 3-point field goals allowed per game. They allow the seventh most. So I think it's important for guys like Brunson and Bridges to take advantage of that tonight for the Knicks, considering those are the 3-point field goal leaders for the Knicks. Brunson ranks 19th best in the NBA. Mikal Bridges ranks 50th. And then Cleveland is also vulnerable to those fast break points allowed per game. They rank 22nd in that category. Mikal Bridges is the leader for the Knicks in fast break points per game. He ranks 22nd best in the NBA, followed by Jalen Brunson, who ranks 49th. Cleveland's good at limiting those points in the paint per game. So I think maybe Karl Anthony Towns, I believe he's one of the leaders in points in the paint for the Knicks. Same with Brunson. So, I think it could be a little bit troublesome there for Karl Anthony Towns tonight. Especially going up against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, who are two good defenders. But maybe he has good history against them, So I wouldn't necessarily just automatically count Karl Anthony Towns out from having a good game. But it looks worrisome tonight. Okay, Cleveland, they rank 13th in assists allowed per game, so just a little bit above average at limiting that, and then a little below average in limiting those rebounds per game to opposing teams. They rank 18th in that category. They're a little bit below average in limiting those free throw attempts as well to opposing teams. They rank 17th in that category. And then we have the New York Knicks defense. They are a pretty good defense just in general, but their biggest flaw is going to be that 3-point defense. And it's really not that bad. They rank 20th in that category. So just a little bit below average. So I think, Donovan Mitchell and James Harden have to step up tonight to attack that weakness for the Knicks in order to stay competitive in this game. Donovan Mitchell ranks first on the team, second best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game, followed by James Harden, who ranks 12th. But yeah, Knicks fourth best in points in the paint allowed per game, ninth best in fast break points allowed per game, fourth best in assists allowed per game, seventh best in rebounds allowed per game. They're average at limiting those opponent free throw attempts per game. So, good defense. If I'm Cleveland tonight, I'm looking to take advantage of that 3-point weakness. But we saw that on Sunday, was it, against Oklahoma City? Kind of reminds me of this game, except Cleveland is home today. Maybe that will make a big difference, That's something else I would look at. Is Donovan Mitchell and or James Harden better when they're playing at home or on the road? I could be wrong, but I think I'm going just based off what I've seen throughout my life. It seems like Donovan Mitchell has better games at home than the road, but I could be wrong. Josh Hart, he's had a triple-double in 1 out of 22 career games against Cleveland. Karl Anthony Towns hasn't had a triple-double in 16 career games against Cleveland, but he has had a double-double in 10 out of 16 career games against Cleveland. Evan Mobley's had a double-double in 6 out of 20 career games against the Knicks. And Jarrett Allen has had a double-double in 8 out of his last 25 career games against the Knicks. Then we have Charlotte at Chicago. Charlotte, 1-game win streak. Chicago, 9-game losing streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Charlotte's won 1 regular season game in a row against Chicago. These teams have played against each other 3 times this season, though, and Charlotte has won 2 out of 3 of those games. I'm not going to go through break down every meeting there, Charlotte is 1-2 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Chicago's 3-2 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Chicago has won 4 consecutive games that they've played against any team on this exact date, February 24th. But I did notice that LaMelo Ball, the projected starting point guard for the Charlotte Hornets today, has a 4-0 career record against Josh Giddey. Charlotte, they were they were favored by 8.5 when I checked last night. This morning, same thing. Over under hasn't changed either since I looked last night to this morning. It was at 230.5 on DK. Is where I get these odds, by the way, DK. Yeah, but 230.5 last night, and then this morning, same thing, 230.5. You know, I think I didn't even look at this line last night. I think it was just this morning. Okay. 3 different against the spread trends. Charlotte has advantages in all 3 of those trends that I normally look at. Charlotte is the best team in the NBA against the spread. They're 35-23. Chicago ranks 9th worst in the NBA against the spread. Two below average defenses here in regards to team defensive efficiency. Chicago ranks 26th in that category. They allow the 4th most points in the paint per game. Chicago does. So I can see Miles Bridges taking advantage of that today, and Kalkbrenner. By the way, Miles Bridges and Diabate were suspended for Charlotte, and I believe they'll be back today. You may want to double check me on that, but I'm almost certain that they'll be back today. Okay, they are in the projected starting lineups today here for Charlotte, and from my understanding, were both suspended for 4 games, and I've been kind of keeping track of that. They've missed 4 games, so it looks like they'll be back today. And then fast break points allowed per game. Chicago is just a little bit below average at defending against that. I mentioned Kobe White might be playing too. For those of you that like those revenge spots, I believe he was just recently traded from Chicago to Charlotte. So maybe, he wants to come out and ball out tonight. Show up and show out. But he is the fast break points per game leader for Charlotte, even though he hasn't played a game for them, I don't believe. He was good at that whenever he was playing with Chicago. Okay. But he ranks 14th best in the NBA in fast break points per game, followed by Brandon Miller, who ranks 58th, Knipple, who ranks 59th. Chicago, 3-point field goals allowed per game. They rank 22nd in that category, so slightly below average at defending against that. And that could be problematic against a good 3-point shooting team like Charlotte. LaMelo Ball ranks 2nd best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game, followed by Knipple, who ranks 5th, Brandon Miller, who ranks 14th, Miles Bridges, who ranks 47th. Chicago allows the 3rd most assists per game to opposing teams. So if you like an assist prop for Charlotte's day, I think it's worth looking into. And then Chicago allows they're a little bit below average in limiting those rebounds per game. They rank 18th in that category. So I could see some guys for Charlotte possibly taking advantage of that today. Chicago limits their opponent free throw attempts decently. They rank 12th best in the NBA in opponent free throw attempts per game. But Charlotte ranks 1st in opponent free throw attempts per game. So they're a very disciplined team in that regard. Charlotte ranks 16th in team defensive efficiency, so right about average defense here for Charlotte. I think Giddey's probably got to step up tonight for Chicago in order to stay competitive in this one. Charlotte is just a little below average at defending against those points in the paint per game. They rank 18th in that category. Giddey's the leader for Chicago in points in the paint per game, ranks 57th best in the NBA in that category, followed by Trey Jones, who ranks 82nd. Charlotte, a little bit below average at defending those fast break points per game as well. They rank 20th in that category. Giddey ranks 33rd. best in the NBA in that category. Charlotte's pretty good at defending against those 3-point shots. They rank 14th in assists allowed per game, so right about average in that. But they limit their opponent rebounds per game better than any team in the league. All right, they rank first in that category. LaMelo Ball has not had a triple-double in 10 career games against Chicago. He's only had a double-double in 2 career games out of those 10 games that he's played against Chicago. Then Miles Bridges hasn't had a triple-double against Chicago, and he's had a double-double in 3 out of 23 career games against them. I'm simply not going to have enough time to go through all of these games today. But let me see if anything else like kind of sticks out to me, guys. Miami does have the third best against the spread record. They played Milwaukee today, who has the 10th worst against the spread record. I didn't see really any line movement from yesterday to this morning. I saw Miami minus 5.5 in both of those situations. Both of these teams, Miami and Milwaukee, are bad at defending against the 3-point shots. Miami is bad at defending against assists per game, rebounds per game. But we've talked about this on several previous shows. That has to do with Miami's pace of play. They actually have a really good defense, but since they're such a fast-paced team, they allow a lot of statistical things to happen in these categories because they play at such a fast pace. Milwaukee. No, I'm not going to talk about that. Golden State, they've won. They played New Orleans today. Golden State's won 6 regular season games in a row against the Pelicans. The Pelicans are 1-5 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Golden State's 4-5. Golden State's won 8 consecutive games that they've played against any team on this exact date, February 24th. I didn't really see any line movement. I looked at those 3 against the spread trends. New Orleans has advantages in all those trends. By the way, Miami and Milwaukee, Miami has advantages in 2 out of 3 of those trends that I normally look at. But yeah, the Pelicans have advantages in all 3 of those against the spread trends. Pelicans are really bad at defending against that 3-point shot. I think Golden State, against the Nuggets on Sunday, Golden State was trying to make all shoot a bunch of threes. So I could see them possibly trying to have that same game plan tonight against the Pelicans, who allow the second most 3-point field goals made per game to opposing teams. Moody is that leader for Golden State in 3-point field goals made per game. Both of these teams are a little bit below average at fast break points allowed per game. The Pelicans are pretty bad at defending against points in the paint per game. But with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry being out, DeAnthony Melton's the next guy up for Golden State who leads them in points in the paint per game. But he ranks 150th in the NBA, and it looks like he's questionable to even play tonight. But if you like any rebound props or assist props for Golden State today, New Orleans allows the 4th most in both of those categories per game out of any team in the league. Boston and Phoenix. Boston's won 4 regular season games in a row against Phoenix. Derek White has a 6-1 career record against Jalen Green. Derek White has a 4-0 career record against Mark Williams. Phoenix has all 3 of those against the spread trend advantages. The biggest flaw I see here is Boston 3-point defense. They rank 23rd in that category. Gillespie is the leader for the Phoenix Suns, ranks 13th best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game, followed by Royce O'Neal, who ranks 23rd, and then Dylan Brooks, who's out, ranks 42nd. Both of these teams are pretty good defensively, but Phoenix is shorthanded yet, with Booker and Brooks being out, and Grayson Allen's even questionable tonight. So really where Phoenix is vulnerable is rebounds allowed per game, but they're still above average in that category. They rank 14th in that, 10th in points in the paint allowed per game. So yeah, good defensive team on both sides, but Mark Williams has had a double-double in 3 out of 5 career games against Boston. But the games that he didn't, he played 17 minutes and 2 minutes. So maybe he gets one tonight. Minnesota at Portland. Portland's 0-6 on the money line on Tuesdays this season. Minnesota leads the season series 2-0 against Portland. I looked at those three different against the spread trends. Portland wins 2 out of 3 of those trends. Biggest vulnerability I see in this game is going to be the Portland fast break points allowed per game. They rank third worst in that category. So Dosunmu, he ranks first on Minnesota, 12th best in the NBA in fast break points per game. And then Anthony Edwards ranks 18th. Portland ranks 16th in points in the paint allowed per game. So not great, not terrible. Julius Randle ranks 25th best in points in the paint per game. Anthony Edwards, 29th. Julius Randle, he hasn't had a triple-double in his last 25 games against Portland. He's had a double-double in 6 of his last 25 against Portland. And Avdia hasn't had a – he's out tonight, right? Okay. Orlando at Lakers. Orlando's won 3 regular season games in a row against the Lakers. They've won also Orlando's won 3 consecutive games that they've played against any team on this exact date. But Doncic has a 9-2 career record against Desmond Bane. When I looked yesterday morning, Lakers were favored by 6.5. Now I see Lakers minus 5.5. When I checked about an hour ago, I give the Lakers those 3 advantages in the against the spread trends. Orlando's really good at defending against the 3-point field goals made per game. They rank second best in that category. Okay, they rank 8th best in assists allowed per game, 11th best in rebounds allowed per game. But I could see some guys getting to the free throw line tonight for the Lakers, considering Orlando ranks 26th in opponent free throw attempts allowed per game. The Lakers are just about average at defending against the points in the paint, fast break points, 3-pointers. So Banchero is going to be that points in the paint leader out of available players today. Fast break leaders, Anthony Black, Banchero, Bane. 3-point leaders, Bane, Anthony Black. Lakers ranked 22nd in assists allowed per game. So if you like anybody for the assist for Orlando today, they are slightly below average. Lakers ranked 2nd in rebounds allowed per game. So could be kind of tough for Orlando to pick up some boards tonight. And then LeBron, he's had a triple-double in 4 of his last 25 games against Orlando. Doncic has had a triple-double in 2 out of 14 career games against Orlando. Then Banchero has not had a triple-double in 5 career games against the Lakers, but he's had a double-double in 1 out of 5 career games against the Lakers. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining today. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for the support and the follows and the likes and the shares. We really appreciate that, guys. Also, thank you to our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Oakland Gold, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, good luck today, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.